Welcome back to DepDiv, the podcast where we watch powerful nations make expensive decisions and explain why that was inevitable. I'm Maple, and today we're covering the most predictable ceasefire in modern history. Yes, the United States and Iran, April 2026. Two nations that spent years threatening each other, looked at their bank statements, and collectively decided, maybe not. Inspiring. After months of escalating military exchanges, proxy skirmishes, tightening sanctions, and enough threatening rhetoric to fill a reality television season, both Washington and Tehran quietly agreed to a ceasefire. Analysts called it pragmatic, politicians called it strategic, everyone pretended it was intentional. It was not intentional. It was two gamblers running out of chips simultaneously and calling that wisdom.
Section 1. The dollar auction trap. Let's dive into the surreal economic mechanism that drove this entire conflict right into the ground.
Let me introduce the dollar auction, a game theory scenario invented by economist Martin Schubeck. An auctioneer offers a dollar bill. Highest bidder wins, except there's one rule. The second highest bidder also pays their final bid and gets nothing.
Sounds insane. It is insane, and yet rational people consistently overbid past $1 because walking away means losing everything already spent. So both sides keep bidding. The auctioneer collects $5 for a $1 bill. Everyone leaves poorer and confused. That is U.S.-Iran relations in a paragraph.
Section 2, bidding in the middle game. Let's see how this actually built into the geopolitical reality we saw earlier this year.
By early 2026, both nations had bid into genuinely uncomfortable territory. The U.S. expanded naval presence in the Persian Gulf, reinforced Israeli defense commitments, absorbed domestic backlash from rising oil prices, and watched allies grow nervous. The military posture was expensive, the diplomatic cost was mounting, and the strategic prize, regime change, a compliant Iran, a different Middle East, was looking like a dollar bill about to cost $50 to collect.
Iran was not comfortable either. Sanctions reached painful levels. Proxy networks across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen were under sustained pressure. The Revolutionary Guard was stretched. Domestically, real economic grievances could only be papered over so long. Iran had placed enough bids to signal resolve. It also understood the next escalation round would hurt considerably more.
Both players looked at the auction. Both did the math. Neither admitted losing. Both quietly stopped raising their hand. That's not diplomacy. That's two people deciding the vending machine isn't worth kinking anymore. The ceasefire was predictably vague. American officials described calculated de-escalation. Iranian officials framed it as resistance achieving objectives. Both statements were largely fictional, but served domestic audiences well, which is what official statements are for.
Here's what actually happened. The costs of continuing exceeded the realistic value of winning. No grand vision, no breakthrough. Just two exhausted bidders recognizing the dollar wasn't worth what they'd already spent, let alone what the next bid would cost.
They didn't solve anything. Underlying tensions remain intact. Disagreements over nuclear development, regional influence, and ideological legitimacy are all still present. But they stopped actively making everything worse. In that relationship, that counts as progress. This ceasefire is not peace. It's a pause. Both sides put the gavel down, looked at the numbers, and agreed to reconvene when someone figures out a different game. Quick break. If this breakdown of international game theory disguised as a podcast is useful, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and tell one friend, preferably one who uses the phrase proxy conflict in casual conversation. They need this. Reviews keep sunk cost alive. Unlike the U.S.-Iran standoff, your investment here costs nothing and the return is immediate. 5 stars. Tap it. Walk away a winner. That's how you beat the dollar auction. Section 3. Wildcards and weeds. Let's jump right back into the board because external complications forced this whole endgame. What's really interesting here is how Israel's approach, often referred to as mowing the grass, to handle generation-spanning threats, significantly complicated negotiations. They understandably seek freedom of action for their own security, while the U.S. prefers broader, lasting stability in the region. That naturally creates a really tough spot for Washington.
You see, American strategists shoulder wider global responsibilities than their Israeli counterparts. This means what some might see as a local security excursion actually heavily distracted the U.S., all while letting global competitors like China quietly capitalize on the chaos.
Section 4. The tab. Let's tally up the final consequences of this surreal political reality. Sometimes, the most sophisticated thing two powers can do is simply stop.
Not win, not resolve, just stop. Spending on a bet that was never going to pay out at the price being charged.
The April 2026 ceasefire was a triumph of arithmetic, not diplomacy. Both nations chose the smaller loss. That's not inspiring, but it is rational. And in geopolitics, rational deserves more credit than it gets. Massive credit to my producer FireflyHaku, who assembled this episode from my chaotic notes into something coherent. FireflyHaku recognized the sunk cost of my rough draft, cut losses immediately, and produced something worth keeping, a level of strategic clarity Washington and Tehran could have used 18 months earlier. Thanks for listening. Stay skeptical, stay solvent, and remember, the wisest move in any escalating conflict is sometimes just putting your hand down. See you next episode.